All right, what's up, tycoons? What's up, traders? Super excited for today's video. Coming at you guys with another TLT video. There's some important charts that we need to go over, right? Things do seem to be changing at the moment, so we're going to go over those changes. We're also going to go over some of the things that we've been tracking in the past and see how, there is still a possible chance for those things to play out as well. So make sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and we're going to start off here with our stock market versus TLT chart. This is the S&P 500 futures right here on the top, and then we have TLT here in red. Okay, so TLT is going to be this red line. And one of the reasons that I really started making these TLT videos is because TLT has been a leading indicator for the past year, over a year really, in the stock market. And what I mean by that is this, right? So when you see the stock market going up, making higher highs, right? So we see the S&P futures making higher highs here. TLT was actually making lower highs in a downtrend, right? And so what I mean by TLT as a leading indicator is you see that eventually the stock market ends up following, right? So there were diverging from each other. There was a divergence, but ultimately the stock market ended up following. And then it did the same thing over here where the futures are making higher highs. TLT's making lower highs, and then sure enough, stock market ends up following, right? Over here, we actually see the opposite, right? Where TLT is actually making higher lows, but the futures are actually making lower lows. And sure enough, the futures follow and it goes up, just like TLT was going up at that time frame. And over here, we see the same example. And I've been warning people a lot that we had this divergence here recently. Okay, now this is a daily time frame, so it took a while for it to play out, but over the past couple weeks, we've seen a really big move down, and we've been able to capitalize on that in the Discord, right? We've made some really, really good moves, and been able to capture the downside move. And here recently, we've been able to capture this upside move. Now, one thing I do want to point out really quickly, okay, is that if you take a look, we basically have a head and shoulders forming right now on the stock market, okay, not on TLT necessarily. So you need to be cautious just in case this was a bull trap. Okay, we do actually have a head and shoulders pattern forming. And so if we were to essentially break this neckline right here, that's when we could see that head and shoulders play out. But for right now, we're getting a strong bounce in the market. Powell is going to speak twice this week, guys. So put your seatbelts on. It's going to be an extremely bumpy ride. I expect a lot of volatility. I'm not sure yet if it's going to be to the upside or to the downside. So we're going to have to wait and see, but you need to be prepared for that, right? So this may be a good week to sit out if you're not too much of an experienced trader, or you don't like day trading necessarily. But these high volatility environments, they're really good for day trading, right? And capturing quick moves, and essentially capitalizing off of the volatility. So, definitely watch out for that head and shoulders on the futures. But at the moment, we're not really seeing TLT and the stock market diverge anymore. The previous divergence that they had right here that I was warning everybody about, it ended up playing out, okay, and TLT had been dropping, and finally the stock market dropped as well. If we go to the next chart, what we're going to look at here is the stock market versus the Wyckoff. Okay, and so what we have on the left is actually going to be the SPX weekly chart, and then we have the Wyckoff method over here. So if this Wyckoff method is going to play out, things could be brutal, right? The stock market could be due for a huge collapse into the redistribution phase that a lot of people may not be prepared for. Okay, so if you look here, we have the spring, all right, just like on the Wyckoffs, we have the spring. Then we have the breakdown over here in this time period, and we have distribution in between the spring and the breakdown, right? So we have our distribution, spring, and breakdown. Then the S&P got a throwback, right? And we see the throwback here as well on the Wyckoff chart, and we came down into our correction phase. So this is the phase that we're in right now, currently on the Wyckoff method. And you can see that if it's going to play out, it's going to take us down into the redistribution phase, and that would be pretty brutal for the S&P, taking it anywhere from 3,500 maybe even to 3,000. So this still has a lot of time to play out, and it has a lot of time to negate these patterns, right? So it's not guaranteed. Okay, this isn't like some guaranteed thing that this is going to happen, but this is something that I'm tracking. It's one of the setups that I'm tracking. You got to keep an open mind to all scenarios. And I know a couple of these scenarios are pretty bearish, right, that we're showing. Especially if we look at my TLT daily structure. If you're new to the channel, I've been tracking a 5-wave move down, taking TLT anywhere to about $81 to $87. And ultimately, this is how it works, right? So we're tracking this orange 5-wave structure: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your wave 1, 3, and 5 are supposed to be 5-wave impulsive moves. And so we can see here that we got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on our wave 1 and our wave 3. Okay. Wave 2 and wave 4 are supposed to be ABC corrections, right? And so we can see after we got our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, we did end up getting an ABC correction, and we topped out here at the 50% retracement level. Now, these three levels right here, the 61.8, the 50%, and 38.2, these are the three most common and well-respected retracement levels, and they've been valid resistance levels for TLT as it's been stuck in this downtrend, right? We can see this time we retrace up to the 38.2. Over here, we retrace to the 50%. And on our most recent ABC correction, we actually topped out at the 61.8% level. Okay. And I said, hey, you know, we're probably going to form a double top here, right? And we did end up forming a double top, right? And we're starting to move down. Now we have a gap down to about 95. Okay. A little bit below 95 on TLT. That's what this blue box is. Okay. And the blue box there, that's basically going to be kind of like my target if we break below 100. Okay. TLT has done a really good job of recently, if it dips below 100, you know, it rallies right afterwards, right? Or it's been able to hold 100 as a really good bounce zone. Here recently, it did dip below, but then it had two bullish candles as soon as it dipped below 100. So if we break below 100, I am going to be targeting this area right here. Okay, and you can see our wave 5 structure is a little bit sloppy compared to the rest, right? And the reason being is we were able to track these moves up and the move down, capitalize here, and then ride the move back up. And then we started trading sideways, right? We had this whole 2-week period trading sideways, and we weren't sure if we were putting in a bull flag and going to get a breakout to the upside, or if we were just consolidating before the next move down. So what we like to do is we like to look at our RSI and we like to look at our MACD for some signals, okay? And those signals, first off on the MACD, an exit signal is going to be this red line crossing below the blue line, right? And this is on the daily time frame. So, you know, you can see that we got that MACD sell signal up here, and that was a good indicator that our C wave and our D wave, right, were done, okay? And that we were going to start our next wave down. And sure enough, we did do that. And then over here, we got a MACD crossover to the upside, right? And you can see that that went ahead and gave us confirmation we were done with the wave 1 down, and we were expecting a wave 2 bounce up. Okay. And then we really started to consolidate and trade sideways. And I was telling people, hey, be patient, be patient. Don't force anything. Just be patient. And sure enough, we did get the MACD sell signal right here. And you can see that that's really when we started our leg down. So if you look currently at the MACD, it's trying to curl back up, right? And so the structure here hasn't been the cleanest. And if we start to bounce back up, we're really going to break through this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 structure, as we really didn't make a lower low. I mean, just barely right here, we made a lower low, but that really wouldn't be a valid wave 3. So wave 3 is going to be targeting about the 94 to 96 region on TLT. That's where I think we're going to head ultimately if we break 100 and break below there. But we're going to pay attention to this RSI right here, or to the MACD, and see if this starts to curl above. This could be an entry signal, right? And show that TLT is going to come back up and retest some of its previous levels. Now, 102.88 is going to be a big resistance level. 106.29 is going to be a big resistance level, and 109.69 is going to be a big resistance level. Those are the three major Fibonacci retracement levels, and we haven't been able to break above these levels to move up higher. Now, you use these because nothing moves in a straight line down or in a straight line up. That's why you use the fibs, is because you move down, retrace, continue the trend, move up, retrace, continue the trend, right? So it's very useful for spotting trend continuation, right? Like, boom, we move down, retrace, got the trend continuation. We retrace here, got the trend continuation. But you can also use these to spot reversals, right? So if you move up, retrace, and then consolidate and break through those retracement levels, you can spot a downside reversal. And if you move down, move up, right, retrace, and then consolidate and break through those retracement levels, you can spot an upside reversal. So take a look at what we've done. We've moved down, we've retraced, and look at how we're consolidating, guys. We're really just consolidating, and we are setting up to potentially break through those retracement levels and get a reversal and retest our previous high up here around 120. Now, that's a possibility, okay? Now, another signal that we had for some bearishness initially over here was on the relative strength index. So we had a slight bearish divergence here. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to how TLT essentially was trading upwards. Okay, so we actually kind of had a little bit of a rising wedge right here. So if I draw it out, you can see we had this rising wedge, okay, where we're making higher highs and we're making higher lows. But, price action was really squeezing in this area. And notice how it's going up, right? Well, we actually had a bearish channel on the relative strength index. So in that case, we had a bearish divergence combined with a rising wedge pattern. And we ended up breaking through that, doing it very clean. We got a break, retest of the trend line, and then ultimately we got the push back down. Now, here recently, okay, you can see that we're actually bouncing and retesting this trend line. So it's going to be really interesting. This area, is it going to act as resistance? Is it going to push things back down? We saw that SPX, the S&P 500 looked like it was setting up a head and shoulders. So it looks like it's ready to make another move down. But it definitely looks bullish, right? And there's a few bullish things in the market. So that's actually going to bring me into my next chart, okay? And this was TLT on March 3rd, okay? And there was actually 3 bullish signals, okay? The first one being a double bottom, right? So I have it highlighted by these 2 arrows right here. We did have a double bottom here, similar to the double top that we were trading on TLT. Okay, a double bottom is going to be bullish. Then we also got a bullish divergence where we had a low here and a lower low right here, right? Clearly in a downtrend, making lower lows, but we actually had a low and a higher low on the relative strength index. So you can see that we're increasing in relative strength as the price went down. We did take a trade here, right? A long position, and we were able to close these out. I closed these out for right around 80% off a 1-day swing trade. Very, very nice. If I would have held those longer, I'm sure I could have gotten, about 120, 150%, honestly, if I would have continued holding those. But I didn't mind taking profit, and there's nothing wrong with taking profit. So, good trade. We definitely smashed it, right? We had multiple 100% plays this past Friday in the Discord. So if you guys want to join the Discord and be a part of the trading community, where you get all of our, real-time updates, you can see what plays we're getting in and out of. All you have to do is use the link in the description, use code Zackley, like the channel name Zackley Trades, and you can get yourself a discount. But yeah, so there was 3 signals there, guys, for a bullish signal. So we're going to see actually if this can continue, right? If this bullishness can continue, then 102.88 is really going to be the next area that I'm targeting. And that's going to be a pretty big resistance level. All right, to see where, if we're going to be able to break through this and flip it to support from resistance, or if we come back up here and move down. It's going to be pretty important and interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, I just wanted to say that, just because we're tracking a 5-wave structure down to the 87, 81 area, it doesn't mean that I can't be bullish at sometimes, right? And look to capitalize off of any day trade opportunities. We also had an abandoned baby right here, if you're not familiar with that candlestick pattern. But that's what this is right here. This candle right here is actually the abandoned baby. If we take a look at TNX, it had the exact opposite. And so in my videos, I like to highlight a lot of times that, you need to pay attention to the treasury yields, right? And the US dollar. But TNX is the treasury yield that I like to look at. That's the 10-year. And so when you see the 10-year go up, you're going to be seeing TLT go down. So we had a bullish abandoned baby here on TLT, okay? And then we had a bearish abandoned baby here on TNX. Now, TNX, I've mentioned a few times in my videos too before, a half gap fill is going to be bearish, right? If it's a gap up. And if it's a gap down and you only fill half of the gap, it's going to be bullish. And we can see that, we did gap down here, all right, and it tried to fill that gap, but it filled it halfway, right? And so that's a bearish signal. And then we continued bearishness on TNX. And after continuing that bearishness, we're going to see if it can really continue and possibly even start a downtrend, because things do have a lot of bullish setups right now. If you take a look, this is TNX, and this is you may seem a little complicated, okay? But, here we have the abandoned baby patterns, right? So this is the top that we had on TNX, and then this was the bottom that we had on TLT. And then here recently, we got an island reversal on TNX. So if you're not familiar with that pattern, this is the 1-hour chart right here, okay? And I want you guys to take a look. we have the 1, and then we have the 2 right here, right? So 1 and 2, okay? And then we get our 3 up here, right? And notice how it's this consolidation period right here, and then we gap down and get the 5, okay? And sure enough, after we do that, that gives us more confirmation that TNX is about to start dropping more. So we had an abandoned baby pattern. Then we got the island reversal right here. This is on the 4-hour chart. You can see the island reversal as well, a little bit clearer here. Okay, this is the daily chart for TNX. All right, we talked about that bearish abandoned baby. There was also bearish divergence on the TNX daily chart. So lots of interesting signs here, guys. Lots of interesting signs. If we take a look at a larger time frame like the weekly, okay, we have a possible bearish evening star reversal forming. We have this trend line here as well. If we get this evening star reversal and we break through that trend line, TNX can make a big move down. And like I said, TNX going down means TLT is typically going to go up. And if TNX is going up, then TLT is typically going to go down. So the market has bullish setups all across, right? If we take a look, this is the 2-year treasury yield weekly chart, right? And so you can see that we actually broke through this long-term trend line that we've been respecting for a very long time. We broke through, we came up, and we just retested it, right? So this is a perfect textbook break, retest, and we may continue heading lower. Now, remember, Powell is speaking twice this week. So, a lot of this bullish setups that we have right now could be voided out, right? If he comes out and says something hawkish, says something really bearish for the market, or suggest something that they're about to do 50 basis point rate hike, then we could see a lot of these bullish setups negate. But for now, if he comes out even just a little bit dovish, that's going to be the catalyst to really drive all of these bullish setups in the market, right? And the reason that this is bullish is because this is the 2-year treasury yield, right? And we were just talking about the 10-year, the TNX. So when you see the treasury yields go up, you're going to see bond prices go down. And if the treasury yields are going down, you're going to see bond prices go up. Look at what we have on the weekly chart, guys. We have bearish divergence, right? So we're making a high, higher high, higher high, higher high. We have high, lower high. Okay, so we have bearish divergence on the weekly time frame for the 2-year treasury yield. And we also have a head and shoulders setting up, guys. Now, it's not a perfect vertical one, right? And a lot of people, just look for them perfectly vertical, but this is a little bit sideways. But it is a valid head and shoulders pattern forming right now. And this retest of this trend line here ended up putting in our right shoulder. And if we reject this trend line and head lower, there's a very good chance we could see this head and shoulders pattern play out. And we could see the 2-year treasury yield come down to about the 3.5% area. Okay, if we take a look at the next one, this is the 3-year treasury yield weekly chart. And you're going to see that a lot of these things have the same similar setup. Okay, now on this one, we did not break the trend line yet. All right, but we're testing this trend line again here recently. And same thing, we're putting in this head and shoulders pattern. We could see that head and shoulders pattern play out. We have bearish divergence again on the weekly chart. And so what we're seeing is that across multiple treasury yields, right now, this is the 5-year, we have a head and shoulders pattern forming. We have a bearish divergence on the weekly chart, and we also have a really big trend line that we've been testing a lot. If these trend lines get broken, this could be a really big move to the upside for TLT. Okay, left shoulder head, right shoulder here, trend line, bearish divergence. This is the 10-year right here. We're seeing the same thing, guys. Now the shorter the treasury yield length, right, like the 2-year, 3-year, 5-year, those are going to move a lot quicker than the 10-year and the 20-year. So that's why you see these are still relatively pretty high compared to their trend lines. But yeah, take a look, right? We have the left shoulder here, we have the head, we have the right shoulder, okay? And if we break through this neckline right here, or through this trend line right here, we could see the 10-year treasury yield come back to around the 3 to about 3.4% area on the 10-year treasury yield. That one also had a bearish divergence. This bearish divergence is a little bit longer, has been setting up a little bit longer since 2021. Since summer of 2021, we've been making a high, higher high, higher high, and making high, lower high on the treasury yields. This is the 20-year. Okay, and remember, TLT is the 20-year plus bond ETF, so it's got more than just the 20-year. Okay, so you definitely keep that in mind. But this one is going to be kind of the closest to representing how TLT is going to move, and this is the 20-year right here. And we can see, it's got the trend line. It actually retested the trend line here recently, and it wicked down below. wick down below multiple times, but ultimately it's been respecting that trend line still and moving higher. This move higher is setting up the right shoulder. So, if we end up topping out sometime soon and breaking through this trend line here, we could see some really big moves down on a lot of these treasury yields. And a big move down in a lot of these treasury yields is ultimately going to result in the 20-year treasury having or basically TLT having a very strong move to the upside. So we went over some bearish structures in the beginning. All right. But when you look at things developing right now, there is a scenario where we could see a pretty big rip in the market here recently, or here in the near term future. So, we have to keep an open mindset and say, hey, well, if this bear structure isn't going to play out, what are some of the bullish scenarios? So that way I'm not caught with my hands in my pocket, waiting to buy the dip, right? Maybe I can capitalize on some of this stuff with a nice trade. Of course, none of this video is financial advice, but rather just data, right? And so this is all data that I'm going over with you guys and just giving you some different scenarios, looking at some of the possible different outcomes based off of the chart patterns and a lot of the technical analysis. There is one more chart actually I want to show you that I didn't put on this presentation. So we're going to hop on over to TradingView real quick. Okay, so we're back here on TradingView looking at SPX on the daily time frame, and currently we have a bump and run pattern. Now, if you're not familiar with that pattern, I would definitely check out my chart pattern 101 trading video. I have a completely free trading course tutorial, really taking you guys from A to Z. So like going over the things that you want to learn first, and then as you learn those and get comfortable with those, you can progress onto some of the future videos in there, and really just it's a good setup, right? And so it's teaching you, from A to Z, basically the order that you want to start learning stuff. Here recently, I just dropped a chart pattern video, and this pattern is actually covered in that video explaining it. But this is a bearish pattern, right? So we have this bump right here on this trend line, and then we have the period of run, right? So we're getting a bump and run, and we actually broke through this trend line right here. And ultimately this trend line right here, you can see we dipped below and we came back up above. But if this trend line ends up ultimately breaking through there again and we continue heading lower, this is going to validate this bump and run pattern, and we could come down and retest some of the previous lows here on SPX. That's going to be the stock market. I also told you guys about how we have a little bit of that head and shoulders forming, right? So here's the left shoulder, here's the head, right? And then we're starting to try to possibly put in a right shoulder here if we bounce and consolidate through this area before dropping. So there's definitely it's definitely a weird market right now, right? Like if you're a bull, you could find plenty of bullish things in the market to be bullish about, and if you're a bear, there's a plethora of data for you to be bearish about as well. So the best thing to do is to prepare yourself for both scenarios, so that way you're not sitting on the sidelines and missing out on any opportunities. And you can make some trades in the meantime, right? Whether it's a bullish trade or a bearish trade, we really like to trade options in the Discord. And that gives you, the freedom to, buy some put options if things are giving you some bearish signals flashing, or you can buy some call options if we have some bullish signals flashing. Here recently, we've been seeing some bullish signals. We're riding that momentum. I currently don't have any positions open on TLT in full transparency. So, it's not like I'm out here really trying to push an agenda. I'm just waiting for the next entry or exit. So appreciate you guys watching the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'm out.